Morning, everyone. Hey, we are awake. That's right. Hey, it's good to see you. Today we're wrapping up this series, Who Are We? We've been asking this question over and over the last month or so, and we've answered the question a couple different ways. We've answered the question that we are family. As a church, we are family. We've answered the question that we are for our community. Hey, we want to see our community do well. We also want our community to meet Jesus. Last week, we were out in the big room, family service, kids were with us, and we answered the question that we are authentic. We are authentic. And last week came with a little bit of a challenge. We talked about the two shirts on stage, if you were here. There's the shirt before Jesus, and there's the shirt after Jesus. And part of being a follower of Jesus is recognizing the need for the new shirt and to continually pursue that, but being honest about the fact that there's a dirty shirt. There is struggles in our life. There's things that we don't have figured out. And so last week, we challenged one another with this idea to be authentic. And we had this hashtag, Real Crossroads, right? Okay? And I learned some things this past week about us. Okay? One of the things I learned is that we have a ton of laundry. All right? We do, and we're not great at it, and that's okay. All right? I learned this past week that all of us have crazy kids, all right? I learned a lot of different things. Probably one of my favorite things is that I have sermon illustrations for years. All right, so thanks for providing that. One of my favorite things to do over this past week that I started to watch as we started posting these pictures of our dirty laundry and our burnt pizzas and all of this other stuff, what I loved is that other people, as we began to show, I've got a mess in my life, other people wanted to be a part of it. There was another hashtag that started that was wannabe crossroads. Did you know that? Yeah, of people that wanted to join in the fun of us just having fun and being authentic and being real, which just goes to prove the point. When we become real about our mess and our need for Jesus, instead of pretending that it's not there and that we're too good for it, it puts Jesus at the center of attention. People desire to be real with one another. Everybody thinks, oh, well, I just got to have it all together. But that's not infectious. What is infectious is when we are real with one another and recognize we all have the laundry basket of clothes that we've not put away. All right, except for the type A people, and there's a few of you. We love you, it's okay. Authenticity. We saw it all week. If you participated, thank you for doing so. And just being real about the mess in our life. And it's not always perfect. And in doing so, we communicate to the people around us, I don't have it all together, which means I have a real need for Jesus. We're going to wrap this series up today with some of the last words in this book we've been studying. Paul's writing this letter. We've been talking about this, and we're going to end with his last words because as he wraps this letter up, he's getting ready to send this letter off. And as he does, he recognizes the message is so important that I don't want to just send the letter. I want to send someone with it. You see, he's sending someone with the letter because Paul understands, as he's writing this letter, that the message, it's not just for him, it's for everyone. I want to pray and we're going to jump in. God, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for your church. I'm thankful for our openness, our honesty, our authenticity. And Jesus, we had fun with that this past week. I pray that we will continue to live that out, that we don't have it all figured out, that we desperately need you. Jesus, I pray for our time this morning, and maybe we're just jumping in. And we're just asking questions and trying to figure this out. And Jesus, I pray this morning that you will speak truth, that you will be honest. And God, I pray that you will challenge us forward. I pray that we're not just here to check in and check out, but I pray that your word transforms us. Jesus, we're thankful that because of a cross and you coming to this earth, we can all be here as imperfect people celebrating who you are. It's in your name we pray. Amen. I want to start this morning with two questions. Question number one is this: who from around the world would find Jesus if your prayers were answered today? Who from around the world, this is outside of America, who from around the world would find Jesus today if all of your prayers were answered? Question number two. Question number two is, when was the last time you prayed for someone not in our country to find the hope of Jesus? Probably. I know not all of us, but probably most of us have a hard time answering that question, don't we? Probably there's not someone in most of our minds that just jumps right out. Because what has happened is the busier our lives have gotten, the more narrow our worldview has gotten. The busier we are trying to just accomplish the next thing, get the kids the next place, go to the next meeting, get the next job done, the faster that we are running, the more narrow our world is becoming. And the only thing that we see of the outside world for a lot of us is what social media and what the news tells us. And most of the time, I know I'm making some generalities here, but most of the time, if it's making social media or if it's making the news, it's most of the time not good, is it? No. Which means that in the busyness of our life and the fast pace that we're running, our narrow worldview, the only thing coming in about the outside world and different countries and different people groups is negative. Which means that we oftentimes will get a very narrow worldview where it's just about us and it's just about what we are doing, including the mission of the church. But here's the thing. I ask these questions not to make us feel extremely guilty, although maybe it might be a little bit good to feel that way. But for us to recognize that all of us collectively, our worldview has shrunk. And the problem with that is that the church has not. You see, the church that you and I are a part of, it is a global church. It's not just a here church. And when we just view the world in the narrow busyness of everything we need to get done, or the things in our life that are not going well, or the things that we need to fix or change or switch, when we just get kind of stuck in our world, we get a jaded view of the world that God made around us. And Jesus' mission, his word is very clear. Go into all of the Macon and area communities, right? That's what he said. It's in there, I'm sure. No. Go into all of Missouri. No. Go into all of America and protect our rights as citizens to have a church. That's what he said, right? No. Jesus says, go into all of the world and make disciples. The world means that our mission, it's not a here mission. It's not just an American mission. It is a global initiative, which means that the church builds itself on a mission, on the mission of Jesus. That means that it is global. If we were to ask the question this morning, who are we? The answer is that as people of Jesus and people that belong to the church of Jesus, we are global. But what does this mean? What does that mean to be global? It means this, okay? A simple definition for this morning, that we care for people who are different than us, in different places than us, to lead them to Jesus. Different places, different than us, to lead them to Jesus. Paul, as he's wrapping this letter up, this letter to this church in Ephesus, as he is bringing this thing to a close, he recognizes that the message that he has been writing, that we've been studying, this message that Jesus invites everybody in, this message that everybody is now a part of the church. It's not just this one select group of people, that we have an old and now we have a new, that we're made alive in Jesus, that he has this desire for us to live together. There's this unity that's different than anything else in the world. Just a little bit earlier than what we're going to read right now, Paul talks about, listen, you need to be ready for anything that you are going to face in the world, which means we need to arm ourselves with the truth of who God is, the righteousness of our lives. And as he brings all of this to a close, He says, listen, this message that I'm sending you is going to gain credibility when people bring it. The message gains credibility when people bring it. And so he sends someone. If you have a Bible, we're going to be in Ephesians chapter 6. It'll be on the screen. You're also welcome to look it up on your phone. Ephesians chapter 6, we're going to begin in verse 21. This is the very ending farewell address, if you will. Paul writes this. He says, Tychicus, the dear brother and faithful servant of the Lord, will tell you everything so that you also may know how I am and what I am doing. I'm sending him to you for this very purpose, that you may know how we are and that he may encourage you. Peace to the brothers and sisters and the love with faith from God our Father and the Lord Jesus Christ. Grace to all who love our Lord Jesus with an undying love. It sounds really simple, doesn't it? I mean, it's just more or less kind of the ending, the sincerely Paul, the, hey, I hope you have a good day, here you go. But when we wrap this all up, what we have to understand is that Paul recognizes, listen, for me just to send this letter, it's not enough. I need to send someone with it. The letter, yeah, I mean, everything that I've written, it's great, but I want to send someone that can encourage you in this message. You see, Paul is sending someone out because the mission that he's writing about is a global mission. As Paul writes this, he is sitting in a jail cell. He's in Rome. He's writing to a church in Ephesus, which means that this letter is traveling 1,200 miles. And old Tychicus here, he's not just jumping on an airline and flying over. He's being sent to carry this letter 1,200 miles to this church in Ephesus because the message is that important. And the message gains credibility when someone brings it. Why is he going? Why is he? Well, Paul tells us why he's going. Listen, I want you to know how I'm doing, but I want him to bring encouragement to you. I want him to bring encouragement to you. I want him to encourage you in what I have just written. Encourage you that you guys can work together. Encourage you that you're not defined by your old anymore. I want him to encourage you with a message and the mission of Jesus that is going all over the place. Several years ago, I traveled to Haiti to visit one of the missions that we support here at the church. And when we went on the trip, we sent an email out to Sunlight, which is the school I'll talk about here in a minute, but the place that we were going. And we asked all of the missionaries there, what is something that you really miss from America that you cannot get down there? And so they all sent us something back. It was a candy bars, something that they cannot get, that they really, really miss. And so what we did is we went and we bought some of all of those things for the missionaries that are working down in Haiti. And when we went down there, we brought all these things. So we got there, we opened this big tote up, and we just started handing out all of these things. For what reason? Just to encourage. Just to say the message that you are teaching here matters. That was the only purpose. You see, sometimes if we are a global church, it means that we encourage those who have gone. However, Paul sends Tychicus not just for encouragement, but also to help breathe life into the message, which means at times it might mean that some of us go. And before we shut the door and say, because when it comes to the topic of the church being global, and when it comes to the topic of us going someplace else, before we can even comprehend, fear slams the door, doesn't it? Before we can even say, okay, God, maybe that's me. Before that ever happens, fear slams the door and says, no, that's for somebody else. There's probably some of us in the room that we just said that in our heads. That's for somebody else. Someone else will do that. There's someone else wired for that. And you're right. Okay? I will give you the benefit. And not every one of us in the room is wired to go, but some of us are and we're not. Some of us, God has hardwired to go to the ends of the earth, but we're afraid, and so we sit in comfort. And in a world that is incredibly connected, we justify our fear in sitting still because we're connected to other parts in the world. Every one of us right now, we could pull up a phone and we could research any country in the world. We could know what's going on. We could learn facts and figures. But friends, there is a difference between being connected to the world and being a part of the mission of Jesus in the world. There is a drastic difference. And fear at times will hold us back and slam the door on the very things that God wants us to do. When I was in high school, I wanted to go on a mission trip. I wanted to go someplace not in America. My church was a big missions supporting church. My youth minister, he was a big missions guy. I wanted to go. And so I got on this website of an organization that I was real familiar with, and they led trips throughout the summer. And so I started looking at the trips, and I found one to the Dominican Republic. And I started reading the description, and someone was like, that doesn't really sound like me. And then I read this description and said, part of what you will be doing is playing baseball with the kids. I'm in! All right, here we go. This is all me. All right, so I read this description. I print out the application. I start filling it out. My parents come home. We're eating dinner. And my parents, they love Jesus. They taught us to love Jesus. They taught us to love the church. We're sitting there at dinner, and I said, hey, I want to go on a mission trip to the Dominican Republic. My dad goes, huh. And my mom says, no, you're not. And I said, well, why not? I mean, it's this group who she knew. I mean, it's this group, and, this is how long I'm going to be gone, and this is how much money I have to raise, and I get to go play baseball with them. And I mean, all these other things. And she said, you're not going. She just keeps eating her dinner. I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, Mom. And then ensued a conversation, we'll call it that. A conversation about me wanting to go and her not wanting me to go. And listen, my mom loves Jesus and loves the church and loves the mission of Jesus. But she did not want her high schooler going to another country. Why? Because she was scared of what might happen. Fear shut the door. I didn't go, which is probably better because they probably would have been way better at baseball than me anyway. But I'm good friends right there. I missed the opportunity because fear shut the door. And I love my mom, and now she has traveled the world and changed her perspective a little bit. But friends, our mission is global. And there are some of us in the room right now, or will be today, that we are meant to go and serve global. And we're telling God no. That's how he wired us. He designed us for it. And all the time we hear, if we're honest, we hear, well, the world's falling apart, or this, this part in the world, and we're just asking, we got to pray for this world. What if? Listen, I want us to be the most prayer-filled people in the world. But what if part of our prayer is not, God, I pray that you will intervene. But what if part of our prayer is, God, where do you want me to intervene in the world that you created? God, where do you want me to step into your mission? Where do you want me to be sent? Just like he is being sent to encourage the churches around the world. Where do you want me to go? And before we say that's for someone else, what if this morning, before we shut that door, and before we tell God no, what if we entertain the thought of what if it is me? As Paul is sending him, he's sending him to encourage. He's sending him to breathe life into the message. Because he's sending him on a mission. You see, friends, our mission has been set. Our truth this morning says our mission has been set. Our motion is yet to be determined. Jesus is very clear about our mission. Our mission has been set. Our motion is yet to be determined. And what I have learned, and I'm not this great world traveler, okay? Don't get me wrong. I have traveled to different countries. But what I have learned as I've traveled to even just a few of those different countries is the more of the world that I see, the more of God I understand. Because the more of the world that you get to see and the more of different cultures you begin to learn and the more different people that you begin to interact with, you begin to be able to see the creativity of God all over the place. You begin to understand who he is a little bit more. You're able to understand the depths of his love a little bit more when you understand that this reaches further than just right here. As a church, we support several different missions, global missions. The one I was talking about earlier, Sunlight Ministries in Port-au-Paix, Haiti. They are a school that has set up right on the coast. They have hundreds of Haitian students, and their mission at Sunlight Ministries is to train and equip Haitian people to go and train other Haitian people with the love of Jesus. They have a school, they have a Bible college, they have a church. They have a building like our big building out here in the back, right on the coast. The backside is the ocean. In the middle of poverty, they have brought in 3 giant generators that sit right next to their schools. And they provide electricity to people all around in their area. You see, they're on a global mission. We also, outside of Sunlight, we also support James Law's ministry in Thailand and Burma. James left, he went to Central, down in Moberly. He went to these countries, and he has began not just to start churches, but he trains other people who start churches. And now there are churches all over the place that he just trains the people to go into all of those churches that he started. We are what's known as the living link for James Law, which means that our elders here at the church are his home base. We're the ones that said, we've got his back. We support him. We're sending him out. We support Joy and Hector Rodriguez down in Mexico, and they are planting churches in Mexico among people that do not know Jesus. You see, our mission has been set. Our motives are not completely determined. We have other missions at the church, but they're more local. The global missions, we support them financially every month. But what if our support was more? What if we sent teams to visit these people? What if we sent notes and boxes of encouragement to say, hey, we support you, we've got your back? Our mission has been set. Our motion is yet to be determined. And here's why I know that this is not just falling on deaf ears. Because a couple weeks ago, as a church, we announced, hey, Shelby, who's from our church, wants to go to China. And in a couple weeks, we're going to take up an offering for Shelby's trip because we want to send her well. We want to be a part of the global mission of the church where she is going to work. And so we announced it for a couple weeks, and then last week, out in our big service, we took up a special offering just for Shelby's trip to China, where we said we want to be a part of this with you, and so we are giving this to you. And Sunday night, I was able to call Shelby and tell Shelby that, hey, we raised $2,200 to send you to China. That's right. Because our mission is global. We are part of something that is global. And we believe it because we participate in it. But what if some of us are to go? But what if some of us are to become more involved in the sending? And maybe for some of us, God says, hey, listen, I know you care about the world. Care about bringing Jesus to the world. Some of us are senders, and some of us are goers. But all of us play a part in the motion of the mission. Last year, a little over a year ago, I went to Japan. And to be upfront, I was not going to Japan as a missionary on a mission trip. I was there as a brother. I went to visit my sister, my brother-in-law, who were stationed over there, and that's why we went to Japan. And so I tried to take the pastor hat off, but it doesn't work all the time. And so as we were visiting Japan and learning this culture, hey, I observed people, and there was a whole lot to see. We were walking around on a pretty consistent basis. Honestly, I feel like we walk from one side of Japan to the other. We walk so much. But I started to observe people and just the way that they interacted and also the way that they interacted with us. Now, I want to be honest with you and tell you, I don't know one word to be able to speak, okay? And we went over there, and I had giant language barrier. But there was me and Emily and our kids and my sister and her kids, and we're walking around Tokyo. And what I noticed, we were in the middle of Tokyo, and there was a group of girls, like teenage girls, and they would come up to my nephew, okay? And you wonder, why were they coming up to his nephew? Well, in the middle of Japan, he's blonde-haired and blue-eyed, okay? He did not fit in. We did not fit in, okay? And so Titus is running around and, on the sidewalk and everything like that, and they came up to Titus. And when they came up to Titus, they had big smiles on their face, and they bent down right in his face, and they start talking to him and everything. And Reagan, who's standing here next to me, says, "Dad, what are they saying?" And I said, "Reagan, I don't have a clue." And then Titus starts talking back to them. And Reagan says, "Dad, do they know what he's saying?" And I said, "They don't have a clue." But as I watched this interaction between Titus and this group of Japanese girls, they talked back and forth. Neither of them knew what one another was saying. But both of them had the biggest smiles on their face the whole time. And what I watched in that moment, as no words were understood, that love is transferable. Love is transferable across languages, across tribes, across countries. That we can love people that are different than us, and we don't always have to understand everything that there is. And if love is transferable in that way, then as a church who is built on the mission of bringing the love of Jesus to others, our mission is transferable globally. We are called as people to bring the love of Jesus everywhere, not just right here. Listen, I want us to be the best disciples of Jesus right here that there is. But our mission goes further than our county lines. Our mission goes further than our country lines. Our mission goes across oceans and into different tribes and different people. It steps into different countries where we don't know languages, and there's lots of barriers, and there are a ton of excuses that Satan wants to use today to say, no, don't. But what I do know is that there are people in other countries and in other tribes that look different and talk different, that call themselves sons and daughters of the same King that we do. And that when we worship right now, there are people all around the world worshiping that same God. I also know that there are thousands of people groups around our world, which boggles my mind when we're so connected. There are thousands of people groups around our world that have never heard the message of Jesus. Not even had an opportunity, not ignoring it, not sleeping in on Sundays, never heard of Jesus. Which means that you and I, we still have motion to bring to our mission. We still have work to do. Our mission has been determined, church. We are global. Our motion has yet to be determined. Why don't we go ahead and stand together? Part of us being willing to go is to trust. Trust that God's got things under control. Part of us being global is recognizing that our God is a global God. Part of us being global is recognizing we don't always have to be comfortable. And that the message and the mission of Jesus, it is a worldwide mission that we are called to. We are part of something bigger than ourselves. And when Jesus came to this earth and went to a cross for you and for me, guess what? He didn't do it in America. He didn't do it in our area. We are actually a mission field that someone brought Jesus to. It happened in the Middle East someplace. Jesus came to this world to bring grace to you and me so we can trust that his message is a global mission. Grace that saves us is grace that saves people in Africa. It saves people in Asia. It saves people in Europe. It saves people all around the world. Every tongue, tribe, and nation is the grace that we hold on to. Our mission is clear. Our mission has been set. As Jesus people, as people who are part of a church that is global, are we praying for people around the world? And for some of us, are we willing to go? Are we willing to go and bring encouragement, bring the message of Jesus, and trust that it's God's mission and not ours? Let's worship together.